And we're live.
Awesome.
Welcome, Anushka. Welcome, Ashit. Welcome, myself. So this is the seventh episode of Isolation, and we're very, very kicked about having Anushka today on our channel. And it's going to be a fun session. We're going to be talking about cameras, obviously, but we're also going to be talking about stuff like her inspiration, the reason she got into photography, and what keeps her going with the other art forms that she's pursuing currently. So, welcome, guys.
Hello.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, a quick short story. I don't know if you heard this last time, but when we were discussing in the last session, um, Anushka, I have been following your work since I got into photography. So, that was back in 2008. And I remember, so my mentor, Joy Datta, used to shoot for Verve magazine. And prior to that, I never picked up a magazine and looked at names and looked at the photographers' names and stuff. But I remember I used to shoot a lot of stuff with Nisha and Lamia in a magazine, and they used to keep on talking about your work and stuff. And then I was just fascinated by your use of colors. I mean, obviously the skin tones and lighting, but just the use of colors. And there was this one distinct story. Again, it's 12 years back, but and I haven't seen the pictures since, but it's stuck in my head. It was this model with a red wig, a short bob red wig, and she was outdoors somewhere in a. It looked like a beach destination, or it was a very fascinating editorial. That one picture is stuck in my head since then. So whenever I look at your work online or read about you, I just go back to that picture. You yourself are struggling to
Yeah, like red wig on.
but
Oh.
That's how much she's shot. She's forgotten her images.
it's
I
been a
haven't shot
while,
that much.
but I'll search for that picture and try to put it up in a bit. But yeah, I mean, just looking at like a slideshow of your work, that just it's so diverse, and I feel like from that time, you're one of the few photographers that hasn't changed their style too much. You've stuck on to what you started off with, and you've evolved in that direction. But a lot of people like keep on bouncing around and trying new stuff. But I feel like you've really nailed it, and I don't know, the beauty editorial part of it just like still looks amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, technically, I think even I was a fanboy of Anushka way before any of this started. Like I think in
God, you guys
2000.
make me feel really old.
Oh,
That's
I
good.
was just gonna say that. I
It's like
was,
I've
I
been,
was,
been
I
around
was
for so long.
19. I was
I,
19 when I was assisting Joy. So yeah, that was a long time back.
I was probably as young as well. I think you started quite early, right, Anushka?
I did. I started.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I started when I was like 20. 20. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
So I mean,
I'm
about
pretty
that
young.
time itself, I still remember and we were telling G the same thing. I think when you see somebody else's work and they're kind of resonating what you want to do, the couple of ideas that you have in your head and somebody else is kind of putting it out there, and you're like, okay, like it's really strange to see somebody else do it because you'd like to
Yeah.
think these ideas stay in your own head, and that's something
Correct.
similar I had with you for a very long time. Like even I think you put out a UV shoot
Yes.
with black lights. I was
Yes.
literally thinking of that. I think 2 or 3 weeks before the shoot came out, and I was like, "Shit! I wish I'd done this before." And then I kind of just
I
put,
know that's
yeah,
that's the problem with ideas is once you have them, you have to just quickly just put it out there. Otherwise, someone else has got it. Many
yeah.
other
But
That
people
is
have
also,
so
it.
true.
but
That
also
is
in the
so true.
format, it's like if you see somebody else do it, it doesn't mean you don't have to do it. And that's the bigger thing that I feel like with me as well. If somebody else puts out an
Yeah.
idea, it completely demotivates me to even try that idea out. I mean, accepting that there may be another variation of that idea, I don't think is something that we think of too much. But
But the
I
idea can
mean,
be played with so many times. It can
yeah,
be morphed into so many different things. So it's just
That's
like
true.
you can always the idea is just your inspiration. It's just your basic tool to
yeah,
start,
yeah. But
and
I
then
mean,
you
I
can
think
just
that
you
shoot
can
was
take
so
it
good.
from
I was like,
there.
fuck it, I'm not doing any more of this. Screw it, quit photography.
Yeah. It's mine.
But
Okay, my idea now. None of y'all can take it. Mm.
well, that was mad. Like because I still remember that idea as well. Because I think I was in Goa and we were at a party, and then basically after that party, I was just like, shit, this is what I want to try. And I mean, course, not talking about what happened at the party, but yeah, I mean, that's where the idea kind of came from, right? And I was like, oh, damn. And that was the first time I felt really bad about it. I was like, shit, somebody has got there before me. But I mean, I think her work has kind of been like, I stayed in editorial most of the time, and it's, I think, evolved way faster than most other people have around the same time. Because I think a lot of people, especially while shooting celebrities, end up shooting a
True.
certain style and get stuck over there, and
Very true.
kind of create the same work over and over again, because that's what the celebrity wants also on some level. So, and their style kind of doesn't move from there. But I think with her work, at least, I think she was a little bit more edgy. And do you do a lot of like tests after like these commercial shoots?
I do. I mean, I've always done test shoots throughout my career. It's not that I stopped doing them. I keep doing them. So
No, no. As
it's
in,
it's,
did you
it's
do
always,
tests on the
oh
shoot? No, like I remember, I think there was a talk with you in Bangalore, a conference, and where you
mm.
talked about you finish a shoot and then you take some time to go and take some pictures
Oh
with the same
yeah,
talent.
yeah. Correct. Sorry, yeah. If there is time to play around and have some fun, then I do that because I know that at that point I have the space to take advantage of the talent, the makeup artist, the space, etc. It's not something that I then have to, go do myself and pay for myself. Everything's paid for, and people are there, and people are willing to spend some more time and just create something that's more fun. So I do that a lot after shoots, especially if I see something that I really want to do. So it just happens. It's very spontaneous. It's not always the case.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes
I
people just want to
haven't.
run out.
I had a question. So I've thought about doing that, and but I've always wondered, if um are those pictures going to be still part of the shoot? Like, are the is that still the client's property, or how do you differentiate and say that what, I'm shooting this for myself? If because the client is
Yeah.
going to be around, he's going to be wondering what's happening. Um, how do you
Yeah,
do
see,
that?
it doesn't happen all the time. So it wouldn't
Sure.
probably
Sure.
happen on a shoot where it's a big commercial client and shoot, because anyways, probably by the time you're done with that shoot, you're
Yeah.
kind of all exhausted and want to go home.
Very
So,
true.
but
Very very true.
if it's a 3 day shoot, or if it's a client that I know really well, or say it's just the model and the makeup artist that I know well,
Right.
you have to just see on the day how it goes, and you have to figure out if it's
True.
possible or not possible. There are many times when people say no, but
Okay.
if they don't mind, then you can go ahead. I mean, I don't get to do it on often on
Yeah.
shoots.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I therefore then do my own test shoots separately. But
Yeah.
yeah, these are very few. I mean, I can't remember the last time I actually did it on a shoot.
Okay.
So
That's interesting.
yeah.
That's funny because
Yes.
after that talk, I started taking out time between each shot. So like
Oh,
Yeah.
literally every setup I'd do, I'd shoot something for the client where they'd be happy, and then I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
the art director would be like, okay, I have my shot. Then I'm like, okay, give me 5 minutes. And then I'd spend that five
Yeah.
minutes just making an ass of myself and saying stupid shit to try and get the talent to kind of give me something a little bit more. And I think 8 times out of 10, they always pick that picture that I
okay.
spent 5 minutes shooting versus the one that they actually picked. And I think that's one of the bigger things that kind of kept helping me grow with my work as well. Because I just kept taking that 5 minutes after each shot to kind of say, you know what, okay, fine. And I think also in
That's
art
different
direction,
when you're doing a variation of the same shot. When
yeah,
I do
Hmm.
tests after a shoot, I completely change the look. So I always do it at the end of a shoot. I never do it in
Makes
between
sense.
shots. What
Makes
you're
sense.
doing is actually giving the client your vision, which is even better than what they had envisioned. And so if they're actually picking those shots, see, that's how much they need to like give you that trust and that space to do what you
Hmm.
need to do to then upgrade their visuals at the end, which is
yeah.
great. I'm
Very
glad
true.
that you're doing that as well. That's a great thing to
Because I mean
do.
that's
But
one of the things that really changed my work as well. Because I think up until then I was just like I do whatever the client wanted, but after that it started. So the people that I worked with, I would always work with. So I don't have any one-time clients that I know of. That so basically anybody I worked with would always keep coming back to me because I do that little bit extra at the end. I think they appreciated that part a little bit more
Yep.
than anything else that I was doing. The
yeah,
other 2,000 images.
That
yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah,
Anushka,
cool.
in terms of your journey, how do you start? Where do you start? I know you aren't from Bombay, So, how did you get to Bombay and start shooting and stuff like that? Just a quick, brief history about that.
Well, I actually grew up in the Middle East, and I studied in Australia for a bit. That's where I started my photography. And then I moved to India in 2003, and I didn't even know Bombay then. So for me,
Okay.
the only thing that India was Delhi. So that's the only thing
Yeah.
that I could focus on. I had family in Delhi, so I literally I finished my foundation course in Australia, and then I just literally landed up in India. Um, and then I did another 2 years of diploma um, of professional photography at Pearl in Delhi. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
have heard
Pearl
of Pearl.
Academy.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then that was it. It just kind of took off from there. So after I finished, I started getting small jobs, started visiting agencies, magazines, designers, anybody that I could reach out to and literally, start hustling. I did, and that's kind of like how things started for me. It was very slow,
Hmm.
but yeah, it took me about like I would say about 5-6 years to build up my name and get people to notice me and notice my work. And then slowly, eventually, my work sort of took off from Delhi, moved towards Bombay more, and then that's when I started coming to Bombay for shoots and stuff. And then suddenly everything changed. Everything was only in Bombay, and I was just living in Delhi and constantly flying to Bombay. So then I
Okay.
decided that I was going to move to Goa and be closer
Oh,
to
okay.
Bombay, but not in Bombay, so
Okay.
that I could, have best of both worlds. Um, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of like that was a really quick review of how my career started and how I work now.
Was
Yeah.
it was
Interesting.
it like as difficult? I mean, I imagine it'd be a little bit more difficult for you being at that point. There weren't too many women in the
Yeah, I
fashion
was just
space, at
thinking
least
about that.
shooting. And
Yeah.
like, I can't remember anybody else from that time who kind of reached the same level as you. So I mean, it must have been like really difficult. Yeah, number one, serial number
Yeah, it
one.
was. It was, but I'm not gonna. It was. I mean, it was fine, but it was really challenging. And I have so much energy now. You can imagine how much energy I had then to like just focus on what I
Keep going.
wanted and just went for it. Yeah. So nothing really stopped me. I wasn't put down by this sort of constant struggle that I had to face being a woman, and then being a female in the photography business, which is completely male dominated. It worked to my advantage sometimes. Like when people started to get to know me, they were like, "Oh, fresh perspective." Things like that. She's young.
Okay.
She's from outside of India and all that sort of
Hmm.
stuff. So like I had to just play on all these things that I could,
True. Yeah.
Um, and it worked. It worked for a while, and plus, I do genuinely think I was talented, and I am talented. So I think that really did work for me. I know how to expose correctly. I know how to press that button.
Yeah, but
So yeah, it
I think that
worked.
kind of opened a lot of. I mean, at least right now, I think the women in our industry are doing some really amazing work, especially in editorial and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I think a lot of that kind of opened up because of like people like you kind of opening it up for them. I mean, even though I don't think anybody cares to admit it, but I mean, a lot of it has changed from there to kind of have a lot more women doing the work. And honestly, I really feel like the women are doing way better work than the men are right now. I think the men are just kind of like really like cruising through work right now. It really is. Like, when's the last time you saw something in India in photography that you went, wow? At least in the commercial space.
Commercial space. Yeah, that's true. I can agree
I'm not going to
to
answer that
most of that.
question. Okay. But I
Gonna get
do
in trouble.
I yeah, I don't want to get into trouble. I do agree though. I mean there are some amazing male photographers out there. A lot of them that I follow, a lot of them that I respect, even in India. But I do feel like women photographers or female photographers have a completely different approach to taking a photograph,
True.
especially of other women. And I think that's where the distinction lies between what we offer and what you guys can offer. And you know,
True.
sometimes we do better.
all the time,
Oh,
man. I've been pushing to put like women in government for a long time now. I think they do a better job than we are
yeah.
at anything. But yeah, do you want to start up with
Also,
Anushka's first camera?
yeah. Why not? I also want to know, a lot of people when they're starting off, they're confused about going to films, photography school or assisting, and you chose photography school. Um, do you have any regrets about not assisting someone, or did you assist someone that we don't know about, or how was that like?
So this is one of the main challenges that I had when I came out of when I finished my diploma was that I did go and approach a bunch of photographers to assist, and all of them declined.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So they maybe because I was female, maybe because they thought I was really small and couldn't pick up a
Yeah,
bag.
yeah.
Really not sure exactly what it was, but I think it was a combination of things. And so, yeah, I didn't actually get an assisting position, which is why I then I decided to just start working. But I wanted to do assisting after my course. I knew that
Interesting.
that would be a great way for me to like learn the business side of things, just to make contacts and stuff like that. But unfortunately, that never happened for me. So then I just had to start from scratch, which also was great because I
Yeah,
completely am self-built, you know. I don't have
true.
um I can't say, oh, this person taught me everything or this person took
Yeah,
me under
yeah.
their wing. I just, yeah, just did it
Interesting.
on my own, which is great. I did assist somebody many years later, but that was only for 3 months, so I don't really think that counts. But that was more
Sure.
like when I was traveling. It was like almost I was already 5 years into my career, and I had gone away because I that was my first burnout that I ever had. Was only 5 years into my career, and I was just like, okay, can't handle this. I got to go away. And I went away for 3 months and ended up assisting a guy for 3 months. So, but that's kind of how I got into beauty photography because he was a
Oh,
beauty photographer. So he did
interesting.
influence me that way. I got a little bit of like behind the scenes of how beauty works, and then I was just like, hey, I like this, and I want to pursue more beauty than fashion. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, but I
Interesting.
don't think that's more. I mean, that was the case even when I started off. Actually, when I wanted to kind of assist a few people, like I think it was more of an insecurity thing more than anything else. Because I think if anybody saw any kind of talent at that point, they'd be like, ah, I don't know, because they were. I mean, there's only so much work happening at that point. But
Yeah.
having after I think 3 or 4 years of me shooting like some of my own campaign work is when I started assisting Tarun as well for like a few months, and that I mean that's kind of also what changed my perspective on photography and a lot of other things. But it I think right now it's so much easier to be a photographer than it was, because we wouldn't be able to get as much help anywhere you needed it before, because it was really difficult. People wouldn't share information. People wouldn't share like lighting diagrams, nothing. They wouldn't help you in any way. You couldn't call somebody and just say, hey, you know what, I'm having trouble with this, can you help me? It's like a huge ego thing back then. And
Yeah.
like fortunately with YouTube and all the information out there, I don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I remember also back then, like we were trying to have these photography communities and meetups and all sorts of
Hmm.
things. And I was spearheading a lot of it from Delhi, but I was also feeling like I was just taking on too much and nobody was really responding to it or into it, or like one had a bigger ego than the other, and then getting them into the same room. And I was just like, you know what? This is supposed to be fun, guys. This is not fun, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I was like musicians meet up, hang out, go to a bar, drink,
True.
they
Very
chit
true.
chat. We guys, we don't talk, you know.
Yeah.
We don't hang out with
Very,
each
very
other.
true.
And I was just like, this is so sad. I was like, we can't like just like knock off ideas with each other or talk
Yeah.
about something. It was very hard. And so only eventually after many, many years, like people were like okay to like chat to things. But I think
Talk
it's
about
more the
stuff.
younger generation. I don't think the
Yeah, no.
oldies, they're still very
I also
like,
think like the information is out there right now, so nobody's kind of holding on to stuff. So everybody's kind of getting most of the information from places like YouTube and Google right now. So no, there's no proprietary holding off any kind of particular lighting style. Because I remember a certain photographer wouldn't tell anybody what softbox he used, because he thought that they would get. I mean, if your entire thing was based around usage of a soft box,
Yeah,
then I
true.
mean, you
Mm,
can imagine how fragile the egos were also at that point. But I mean, it's
True.
definitely changed a lot since then. We have to like
mm.
admit that at least. But I mean, the fact that we're having this chat right now kind of tells you how far we've come from that. So I think there
True.
are benefits to what's happened now. But yeah,
True that. Okay. I'm gonna go through. Ashid, you didn't tell me, you didn't send me the picture of the Mamiya, but I'm gonna start with. Should I start the F80 instead?
yeah,
Yeah. So Anushka's first camera. Ding, ding, ding. That's it's a
What
big.
was my first
the
answer to
Nikon,
you guys?
the Nikon
Yeah, the
F80.
Nikon F80. Yeah. First film camera that I had, which was in college. And then
Sorry,
I
just
moved on
opening that.
to the Canon.
Yeah.
Are we waiting for something? Or are you guys
Okay,
putting
sorry.
something?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to pull up the.
The image?
What kind of
Sure,
work
but
did you do on the Nikon F80?
a lot of it was during college. So I used it mostly while I was in school or while I
Uh,
was learning. But I did end up like doing a lot of experimenting with different kinds of film.
Sure.
That's when I also shot for the first time on infrared film, which was really fun. Um, and yeah, we would do a little bit of developing ourselves, which was really nice. So we got to figure out how the film works.
Yeah, yeah.
But then most of it was like, drop it off to the processor, pick it up. Um, it was such a strange
time.
way of like, yeah. If I now when I think about it, I'm just like, film. Wow, it's weird idea that I don't know if it
Yeah,
really exists.
yeah, no, I was thinking
But
about the same thing. When I started off, we used to use I used to use I think OM10, and I shot I think one of my first projects on that, and I'd gone and shot the studio where they'd have a runner boy right outside the door. So you basically shoot your film, and you like pack it up, and then you give it to him. He'd run to the lab, get it processed, and come back in an hour, half an hour, how long it takes them, right? With maybe like a sheet to kind of show you whether you got something right. So that's the only way you could figure out if you got your shot or you messed up. And if you messed up on that sheet, the contact sheet, you basically shoot it again. So you do that change all over again. Versus now, I mean, now like, I think within 3 seconds if you messed up or not. But that was
Yeah.
the
yeah,
process, and I think that's also why people didn't experiment as much back then, because I mean, I think the learning curve was an hour versus a few seconds right now, at least.
yeah, absolutely.
And it was
God, that seems
expensive
so
also
strange.
back
I
then.
think, yeah, it was. Um, um, I think when I had just graduated was when we switched to digital. So I think I was saved on that aspect of when I started shooting jobs. I didn't have to have a runner outside the door, you know, which is 2005. Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so then you then switched to the Canon digital cameras.
I did. I was with Canon. Yeah, I tried Canon for a bit. And then I switched back to Nikon. So with the Canon, I mean the Nikon and the Canon both had beautiful colors. Like I loved the color treatment that the profiles would like how it would show up on your screen. Um, which was sort of like so I was a bit torn like when I wanted to move back to Nikon, but there was someone who was very convincing at Nikon. So I went back to Nikon. And then after Nikon, this I had for a really long time, the D810. I still have it actually. It's my second camera just in case my Fuji, which hopefully will never happen, in case the Fuji
Yeah.
something happens to it. Um,
Actually, the
but
the Fuji's can take a beating, because I was shooting in the rain with it, and I
oh
actually watched a
wow.
couple of videos of people shooting with their XT twos at that point in the rain, and I was like,
Mm,
I was quite surprised, and then So I was like, you know what? Let's just shoot with the 50s outside, and it was pouring. I mean, there wasn't it wasn't pouring on the camera. Of course, we had like an umbrella over the camera, but the camera did get wet, and it hacked through a lot. And I've been like I think continuously shooting on this for about 2 years now, and I haven't
Mm.
had a glitch on this yet.
You're still
It's
with the 50?
Yeah, so I got the 100 as well, and
Oh, you got the 100
the
as well.
yeah, and the 100 is. I mean, it's a story about
Ashish,
testing your cameras
Ashish
before
the
buying them.
Ash is the only photographer who has a GFX 100 lying in his Pelican case but doesn't use it. He's the only
Yeah,
photographer
no,
I can think of.
no, but the 50s is a really good camera. Like it's just, I mean, the focus is a little slower than, I mean, if you compare it to 35 yeah. But now with the new update that came out a few days ago, my God, this thing in low light, I think with just like a small lamp in the room, I was taking pictures of
Mm.
Kim, and it was focusing like quick.
Wow,
And I mean,
massive.
of
You're talking
course,
about the 100 again, right?
no, the 50s. The 50s got a new
Oh, you're talking
update
about the 50.
a few days ago. I think about a week or two ago, they came out with a new update for the autofocus, and it's actually taken the autofocus up by about I'd say 40% at least, and especially
That's
in low
nice.
light.
Thanks for telling me that I should update my camera. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
no, but I mean, so speaking about the GFX 100, and this is something that we keep telling people on the channel, like, don't buy a camera before testing it out. Like, see if you can try and get your hands on something and try it out. Because I had the GFX 100, and I was shooting in Thailand, and because of the heat, the laptop was basically getting fried, and I could only shoot about 10 or 12 pictures before I'd have to stop for a minute and wait for the buffer to clear and then do it all over again. And I did that I think for 2 shoots, and then I was looking at the images of the shoot, and I just realized that like stuff like this really holds back the talent from giving you the best they can, from you kind of
Of
getting these
course.
pictures in
Yeah.
between pictures. So and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna retire this camera up until I get a system that can keep up with it, where I'm shooting constantly, and that's where I haven't shot with my GFX 100 for about 6-7 months now.
That's
Yeah.
it just
You
came
need a
out 6 7 months
clean
back.
Yeah.
yeah, you need a completely clean laptop to start shooting on that with like nothing else on it, you
I
know?
did that. I went and got a new laptop. I sold my, I think, 2016 laptop, and I went and got a brand new 2018 one, and with the top of the line specs and everything. And I went out there, and it just didn't work. And I was like, I was almost in tears because I mean, it's better than the camera and everything. I was like, oh, it's going to give me better images, obviously. And I mean, the images are like definitely more detailed, but it just doesn't have the workflow to kind of use it right now. And I mean, I think people should really test cameras in the situation that they're going to use them in before buying them,
Hmm.
if they can. I don't know how much of an option there is in India, at least, where you can actually take a professional system out and do a shoot. But fortunately, I think right now most rental houses have these cameras, and you can kind of just like get an assistant and rent it out for a day at least before investing 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11 lakhs.
There's a wide range.
You have no idea how much I spent on that GFX system, and I haven't touched it. Like I'm afraid of trying to even get rid of it because I don't know how much I'm going to be hit by depreciation. Because
Mm.
I
I think
remember
hang
buying
on to
medium
it for
format
now.
cameras. Yeah, I mean, I know it's good for the next. I mean, I think the rest of my career in photography, I think that's a good camera. I'm assuming 10, 15 years at least. I mean, where are we going to go
True.
past 100? I think 50 megapixels is great. 100 is just overkill right now, which we don't need. But yeah, I think
True.
it's a camera that I can probably use in the future if Fuji stops updating the 50s.
Anushka, right now, currently, what kind of stuff are you shooting? And you're using the 50s, or do you switch? Because I know you use the 100 as well
I
sometimes, but
have used the
between the
100.
two,
I have
you
used the
you
100
went
a
to
few times,
Japan.
but I don't have it.
You you went to Japan
Hmm?
for the launch, and you did a shoot over there, and that looked really really interesting as well. So you were probably one of the reasons why Ashit and me picked up the 100 because of those images. But
I
but
hope Fuji
eventually,
is listening to this.
Yeah, give her a
but
cut.
Guys.
yeah. So
No,
so
but
so currently using. Sorry, go ahead. Ashit.
no, I was like, it's the same thing we were discussing. I think among all of the people that actually are represented by companies for photography, I think we're in agreement between at least G and I that you're the only one
Yeah.
that should be there. Because I think a lot of the other
Not the
ambassadors,
only one, but yeah, one of the few. Don't
so okay,
don't get us like this is a very controversial
no, no,
topic, but
let's do this. Who else?
yeah.
No, but I
We're not
honestly
going to
feel
take
like,
names, but
yeah. Oh, we already did take names the last week, so it's fine now. No, but it's true. It's like I feel like right now, again, it's coming back to the point. Other than Instagram, followers have become a currency for brands to kind of use photographers or whatever to kind of thing. And that's kind of the problem also, because if you're just hiring people based on their Instagram scores, which can be manipulated, which you can buy Instagram followers, you can run bots through them. So technically, there's no, for a brand to kind of get an ambassador on, it's not a criteria for them to be good anymore. It's kind of just a criteria to have enough followers that they can, show the camera off to, right? But what's that really teaching the generation of photographers that are actually coming up, looking at these guys and saying, hey, I'd like to be a professional photographer and I'd like to use a professional system. And this professional system is recommending I follow these guys. So it's kind of, you're not really following good photography after a while. You're just kind of following somebody who's doing something for the numbers versus just like proper work. Like I remember when
But isn't that
I
personal taste also? I mean, I wouldn't follow a photographer just because he's got numbers, but I'm also not
hmm.
a company. So
Hmm.
it's different. Like if I'm a company looking at how I'm going to sell my product and say
Right.
there's photographer A who's amazing but doesn't have that many followers, and there's photographer B who has many followers, and I know I'll probably sell more systems with him. So, I
Right.
mean, it's a bit of a like, what do you do? So it's,
Yeah, but it's exactly as
you're,
a beginner photographer, right? As an
mm,
amateur walking into the market, you're looking at getting into a professional camera systems. Right now in the market,
mm,
there's Canon and there's Sony, right? So you'd say, okay, fine, I'll pick up a Sony, and then you look at the ambassadors that Sony promotes or Canon promotes, and you assume that that's what is the level of professionalism because the professional camera company is promoting them. So it
mm,
goes into this whole rut of, okay, so they obviously are good enough for them to promote them, and that's probably where I need to get my work to that level. So it really isn't like, I feel it's kind of going away from the work, and that's why a lot of the work I feel like is on Instagram right now. It kind of looks the same to about 80% of everybody's pictures. Like it looks like uh, model digitals from everybody's side. I don't know how exciting we are getting past that anymore. We can disagree, but that's kind of what I've noticed.
I'm just letting you rant. It's okay.
Anushka,
Salty as
she's not
fuck.
going to get into this because, yeah, there's, I mean, she's, I totally agree. Anushka, you don't need to comment on this. This is absolutely
Don't be
fine.
diplomatic about this. We can get it out of her. Come
Yeah.
on, Anushka. What do you think?
No, no comment.
No comment. I think that's a fair enough answer.
Well, I'm just glad that you guys sort of didn't categorize me in the same space, but you acknowledge that I am actually good at what I do, and therefore I
Yeah.
deserve to be recognized by these brands and
For sure.
be a part of their whatever they I am an ambassador type thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's
I also
important. It's
waited a
important to have
very
people like you. Because like when I started up as well, I saw, and I'm not trying to like uh, have your ego out in any way, but I'm thinking honestly, like if I was starting off and I saw like the work that you are creating out there, it would inspire me to be a photographer more, and to kind of create work also that was that interesting. But like right now, it's and that's a problem. It's kind of gone into this place where it's a 1.2 lens where everything's out of blur. Out of focus, or that's the whole scenario right now, and the entire creative aspect of it is kind of gone away. And this is why the reason I keep bringing this up is hopefully a camera company will hear this, a lighting company will hear this, and say, okay, fine, maybe we should take it a little bit more seriously to get more responsible artists like her onto the scene so that we can kind of help the scene grow. I mean, it's not going to grow overnight, but if we kind of do this right now over the next 4 or 5 years, you'll probably see a lot more interesting artists coming out. And I mean, if they're learning from people that are talented, it's just going to keep growing, right? But if you kind of plateau with using something else as currency, they're not going to grow. They're not going to get to the place where it's going to make the country's like entire imagery grow as well. And yeah, I mean that's what I think at least. I don't know how feasible it is for them. I get they need to sell cameras. I mean, this is a discussion that we had with somebody at a camera company as well about a particular ambassador, and he said, honestly, that person has this many followers, and he sells cameras to cities like tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities, and I understood that, but I was like, but that shouldn't be your main criteria to sell an artistic tool. It should be, I mean, if people buy it, great for that. But there should also be, I think, a few photographers that they should be following for just the fact that they create something really special and to keep
But
that
I
artistic
do
fire
think
burning.
that we have that balance, though, no? Isn't there that balance? There's me, who's supposedly creative,
Yeah, I mean,
and then you
with
have
Fuji, yeah,
then you
with
have the other guy
Fuji,
who's not. He's the number guy.
yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing
Make
is,
it too obvious now.
yeah. But that's what happened, and but I don't feel that happens with a lot of other companies. Like it's with Profoto in India, I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening uh, with Canon. Maybe it is. Sony, I don't think so. Again, it's just.
Mm.
But these are again, Sony and Canon are the bigger companies right now in India that are getting a lot more people coming on their systems. But I think they need to be spearheading this with the more responsible outlook at the end of it, at least.
Sure.
That got intense really quickly. Yeah, we went from the Fuji TS to that.
Anushka has maintained her composure and her non-commenting,
No, and
but
this is why women are so much better at what they do, right? They don't rant like us men and mess it up for themselves.
okay.
But yeah,
Also, I mean, I wanted to actually, I was searching for one of your images, Anushka, on your website, but I don't think you have it up yet. One of the latest ritual ones, which you shot sometime this year, the campaign
oh, those
for
are
ritual.
beautiful. I think in Bangkok, the rice fields,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's not on my website yet. You're absolutely right, but
Yeah,
it is on
yeah.
my Instagram. If you want to pull that up,
I'm
you
just doing
can.
that. I'm just doing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But those are really stunning images, really effortless. And
thank
I mean,
you.
I actually wanted to ask you a couple of questions about that. Just give me a second, just pulling it up.
So, what lenses are you using on the GFX 50s, Anushka?
I'm using the 3264,
Zoom.
and yeah, and then I have the 110 and the 120 and the 45.
F2.8. Oh man, that's my favorite lens.
Yeah, it's a great lens. Oh, that's you want to scroll down.
Those are some really strong images. But yeah, that just showcases how versatile you are. Um,
Are those
For
self-portraits you
anyone,
guys?
that's my Instagram. These
I
ones.
am in love with this image. I mean, it's so relaxing. I don't know how to explain it. Relaxing may not be the,
That's exactly
yeah,
what they wanted. That's
yeah,
exactly what they
it's
wanted.
so
It's
calm. It's
uh
so peaceful.
it's a ritual of Jing, so it's basically their whole sleep range that they have.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's exactly why this
Yeah.
model is lying in her night clothes in the middle of a forest, because
It's so
it's meant to give you
nice.
that feeling of being so relaxed and so like content and happy and at ease, stress free, you know. So
Beautiful.
I mean, we got that little setup made also in the forest.
Oh yeah, okay. It's
Lying
like
on
a
his
Mm.
platform.
face.
Okay,
What she's lying on, yeah.
sure, sure.
Ooh, I can see it
And
now.
these are obviously shot on location, right? These were shot in the forest
Absolutely. Yeah.
with okay, natural light falling from the back and stuff. Very beautiful. It's
Um, no, there is lighting here. I have lit it.
sure. No, I meant in the background. Maybe I mean it looks really natural. So if you've lit that, that
There's
looks
some sun in the back, yeah, but where
sure.
she was placed,
Yeah,
there wasn't much light coming in, so we had to, which I actually prefer because then I can
yeah,
control it better.
exactly.
And so then we added some light and some diffusers and
It looks surreal. It looks like
Yeah, it's
you
too
know,
beautiful.
it's like a yeah, it's really nice. Yeah,
Thank
both me
you.
and Ashid like the images, so it
Right.
proves you're not just saying that
Like,
for the.
yeah.
But really, really nice. Love these so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
I
those are
And
all
like
shot on
also
the 100.
shot of the 100,
Mm.
which
correct.
ones?
Yeah. The whole
The
campaign, the
actual
whole
ones?
rituals cosmetics campaign was shot in the 100. Yeah.
But did you
So,
find the same
Anushka,
issue with the
sorry,
100 as
yeah.
well, like the in terms of shooting it out on location, or were you shooting? Were you shooting directly onto the body, or were you tethering it?
I was tethering for the most part. Yeah.
Okay.
What was your reaction like? What is the reason why you use medium format compared to like a 35 mm? Because you had the D810 or you still have the D810, which is sharp enough and which has the megapixels to deliver for commercial work. But what made you jump from like a 35 mm to medium format? What was it?
Well, I think the first thing was just the client's requirements for like a better quality. And when it comes to hoardings and stuff, I don't think the 35 mm cut it so well. So in fact,
Sure.
before I got my GFX, I was shooting on Hasselblad, um, which was such a pain. I find that system so difficult to work with. But
True.
sorry, I said that with such a straight face.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was when you're doing massive hoardings and stuff like that, like you want it to look really really crisp, and so um, that was one thing. I think my Nikon was only 34 megapixel,
36, I think.
36.
Yeah, 36.
36, right? Whereas the Hasselblad was what? It was like 50 or more than
Sure,
50. And then
sure.
the GFX is more than 50. The 100 is 100. So it's like, it's
No, but I think if you
mm,
compare a 50 from a medium format to 50 in a 35 mm, there's still a difference in the way it, I mean, the sharpness at least. Like you can literally, the medium format sensor does get a lot more information. You do see a lot more texture. You can zoom in a little bit more in comparison. So that's why when
absolutely.
people start to talk about uh, the megapixels, right? And they say, hey, we got 50 in this, it doesn't, but it looks different. Like the dynamics range is different. The roll off of your focus areas to unfocus is not as abrupt as 35 mm. It's kind of a little bit more of a flow. So there's kind of like it's more of a painterly look, and that's why I think a lot of the images in the 80s and 70s were shot on either large format or medium format, and that's the look came from the size of the format versus just the film. So it was it I don't know how to explain it, but I think there's a it's the fall off of focused to defocused areas on the medium format. That's what kind of gives it that
Yeah.
really special like look versus the 35 mm. So I don't even think it's fair when people compare the two because it's not the same thing. It, it's
Yeah.
like
I mean, I don't compare the two at all.
yeah,
I think there's a vast difference between the both of them. And yeah, to me, especially like even from the Hasselblad to the Fuji, for me, the Fuji has just opened up a whole new world of how pictures look to me.
yeah,
Especially like you're saying, the fall off is amazing between and the depth of field. So
the
yeah,
highlight roll, multiple things. Yeah,
and all the
no,
presets on Fuji are so much fun. Also,
Oh yeah,
it's I think
I
it's
miss the
more fun than the
presets.
fact
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it translates onto Capture One so well. So a lot of times that I mean, if it's good in camera, it usually doesn't translate onto your NLE or your raw software. But
yeah.
in Capture One, what they've done, having paired it with Capture One, I think is one of the best things that Fuji has done. And funnily
yeah,
enough, I think other than Phase One, Fuji is the only medium format camera that's supported by Capture One. There's no other medium format that's supported by them.
Interesting.
Which yeah, I think we're probably going to look at some mirrorless Phase One cameras coming out sometime soon.
Interesting.
But yeah,
I also want to know, Anushka, what are you? Do you retouch your images yourself? Have you been the kind of person who's sits for hours in the computer and does your retouching yourself, or are you just do you prefer to get it done, outsource from someone else?
I used to do my own retouching, but I think it's been a good like 6, 7 years, maybe a little bit more that I stopped.
Wow. Okay.
I retouch my own personal projects that I shoot,
Sure.
Sometimes I will have a retoucher do it, but most of my projects are now I have a team of 2, 3 women that I work with, retouchers only.
Amazing. Amazing.
Um,
Nice.
there are a couple of guys also that I here and there, but mostly my main 3 retouchers that do my work are all women. They're all based abroad, so
Interesting.
they do my work, and I think we understand. Once you've come to that sort of level of understanding of how you like your images retouched and the kind of amount of work that you want on them. So that's something like you can build up over time. And so like I can blindly send my work now to my retouchers also, and they know exactly what I want, which is great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, just building up on that, I mean, how important do you think retouching is to a commercial project or an image that you have? Do you look at it as 2 separate things, or do you look at it as part of the same thing, which is probably necessary to a certain extent?
Sorry, say that again.
When you're looking at retouching, so a lot of photographers treat retouching as something that they don't want to get involved with. But at least for me, I feel like photography and retouching are
Um,
a big part of the same
yeah, absolutely,
expression,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm
do you
very
feel the
involved
same
in
way?
that process also. And I look at an image when I'm shooting it. I know what it's going to look like in post production. I know what it's going to look like when it's done. You know, and I also don't leave much to the imagination when it comes to retouching, because I try to get everything perfect in my photograph. So my lighting is very precise. The way I treat the image in terms of color and stuff is all something that I do on the shoot. And
Right.
it's very rare that I change that afterwards. It's only if I maybe have time to experiment that I do that. But otherwise, it's very rare. It's like what you see on the day is pretty much what you're going to get as a finished product. So I also think it's very important as a photographer that you know how to retouch, so that you
True.
can
Explain
do
it.
it yourself or at least explain it to somebody else. Exactly. It's I hate it when people just kind of like send off their work to random retouchers and it comes back and it's like it just looks bad. And I've seen it because I've seen assistants do it, and I've had people ask me for their feedback,
Sure.
and I'm like, did you retouch this or did you have someone else retouch it? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I just sent it to someone else, or I tried retouching and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you learn that before you give it off to other people to do.
Yeah, and especially with retouching as well, though, I think the entire format is just kind of evolving. At least we used a lot of frequency separation a couple of years ago, and now it's moved more to dodging and burning. And understanding the different techniques to ask the retoucher you're working with also to kind of incorporate those either lifts or can kind
Mm.
of kill your image. So, I mean, having that knowledge that she's talking about is so important that you can actually communicate what you'd like, where you'd like the image to go with your retoucher versus just like kind of saying, hey, you know what, I want this is to it.
Yeah.
True. For me, one of the biggest challenges was, I mean, I obviously started retouching stuff myself, and uh, mainly because of not having, the right contacts in terms of retouchers, and also secondly, not having the budgets on shoots to, give my pictures out for professional retouching. So I struggle a lot with just generic retouchers who were just giving me generic results. Every single
Mm.
picture looked very, I mean, it just looked like anyone else could have shot it. So I realized that, I mean, obviously working on my photography to make it look a little more distinct, but also doing the color grading on set, whether it's Capture One or whether it's doing a couple of, just basic proofing. That really helped me kind of get 99% of the picture right in camera or on Capture One while I was shooting tethering. And then now I just send out my pictures for basic retouching like skin, or if there's something to be cleaned up in the background, or like a basic composite. Yeah, but I think that's the secret to um, the
There's a
kind of
really
stuff that
good
I do.
course by this guy, Pratik Nayak, who's I think it's on Portrait Masters. It's not too
Solstice,
expensive.
solstice
Yeah,
retouch.
Solstice Retouch. Yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
he does a really great course on the Portrait Masters. It's not so expensive. It's about 10K. I mean, for the information he's sharing, it's not so expensive. And if you
Sure.
want to kind of help understand a lot more, and there's another course by this guy called Felix
Racho?
Rackner. Yeah, Racho.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think he just put it
yeah.
out in English. He should do a lot of courses in German, but he just put out one in English, and I mean, it's cheap, man. It's like I think 4K for the course, and
Yeah.
it'll give you like a pretty great understanding of at least how to work with skin and colors.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just having the information so you can just communicate it as a bigger part. I mean, you don't have to do it eventually. You can just like you can give it to somebody else, but then at least being part of the process would it really help.
Yeah.
Very true. So what's been keeping you busy otherwise besides, besides photography? I know you do music and stuff. So, and you have a launch that's happening today as well. So do you want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that maybe?
Yeah, I just have a new release that's coming out, and it's my second single. My first single released last year in October. And this one is released now. It's Red Bull is premiering it for the first couple of days, and
That's
then it'll
amazing.
go live onto all other sort of major streaming platforms. And yeah, it's that's been keeping me busy because that's something that I've been able to do during the lockdown. And it's all stuff that was kind of on hold because of the lockdown, so it's now
Yeah.
finally like moving ahead. I've also just been, I did a very, very short but intense yoga teachers training course, which
Okay,
was
that's good.
great.
Well,
Yeah, so I do a lot of that. I do a lot of practice, and I'm teaching as well. So yeah, I'm keeping busy. I'm keeping busy.
You're
It's good. And
teaching
now
yoga as
jobs have
well.
started again. I do. I do.
How cool,
Yeah.
man!
Good.
very, very
Yeah.
cool.
I think I was having a conversation with Royson from Bombay, and he described.
Mm.
I think so. I was like, when you were up on stage and we come for one of your gigs, and he's just looking at you like, how does she do so many things so well? And I mean, I think that's yeah. You should
That's
blush
so
right
sweet.
now.
Thanks, Royson. That's so sweet.
Yeah, no, but that's
Yeah.
exactly what he said. I was like,
I get asked this question a lot, and I just, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I have this much energy right now in my system. So, and I'm always on the move. I always have to do something. I'm not much of a chiller. There are months that I do like to just relax and do nothing, but I'm too much of like a go-getter. I just want to like tick things off. I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to rule the world. So it's like just on my list of things to do.
yeah, I mean, I
Um,
can imagine like this coming out. I mean, especially being one of the first women photographers, I'm assuming that you had to take a lot, and now that kind of energy translates into whatever you're doing.
yeah, I just do whatever I like. That's the. I'm not forcing myself to do something that is just gonna make me popular or famous or get me rich. Honestly genuinely doing things that I love doing, and I've managed to take breaks and do other things that I enjoy, which people don't know about and don't think they
Yeah,
need to know about.
yeah,
But I just like come in and out. But like photography and music and yoga have to be like the biggest three passions in my life, and I think I will always have them, and they will always inspire each other, and I always incorporate it into my sort of daily life and practice. So, but yeah, every time I feel like I want to try or learn something new, I'll take out some time and I'll do it, and if it works, great. I might have a
yeah,
fourth profession very soon, but
yeah.
otherwise, I go back to these three because I always have these three. So it's great.
Have you tried video though? Have you tried working with video?
No,
It's so much fun. Like I've just recently started like
I
getting
heard.
into it. It's so much fun, especially with all the
I
cameras
did
we
a
have right now.
short. Huh?
Especially with all the cameras you have right now in the market, it's so easy. Like you don't need a big ass film camera to kind of, I mean, a big ass video camera to kind of get the same stuff. It's like even the X-T4 right now is it's superb. Have you had a chance to test it out? The X-T4?
No,
It's such a fun camera to go and shoot like video on. It's like it's a
I've
tiny
used
thing.
XT3, but I've not tried the 4 yet.
Yeah, I mean with the IBIS it definitely does make a difference, but it's just I mean, you'll have a lot of fun, especially when you're on the editing table. I think that's more fun than anything else. Kind of putting everything together. It's I
Hmm.
mean I found joy in it off late. 'Cause yeah, no, but photography after a while I think for me at least seemed a little not challenging, and I found that little bit more of a challenge with video, and it's kind of picking up a different pace. But you should try. You should really try. It's fun.
Good.
Do you want
I
to
will.
break
I'd
down
like
one of
to.
the images?
I'd like to.
Yeah. Do you want
Hmm?
to do a breakdown of one of your images? A lighting breakdown?
Sure. Do you want to pick one?
You tell us, which is probably the most complex.
Okay. Do you want to pick one or should we pick one, Ashit? Because
Mm.
I don't know which one's been shot. There's a lot of pictures of her in it.
Well, I didn't shoot those. Then.
Ooh, let's do
You
this
wanna?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do the
this GFX
Japanese one.
ones. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it? Do you any one of these actually? These are stunning. These were for the GFX launch. I'm guessing.
Yeah. And this actually took, wow, it took a few hours to set this one up because
Yeah.
the tube lights, once one was working, the other one stopped working. And then when three were working, the other two would stop working. It was a pain in the butt trying to like fix these up. But there was this very interesting florist that came and sort of made this installation at the Fuji launch. And then this was what I was meant to use for the shoot. And it was very like, it wasn't my first choice of like this is the kind of background that I wanted, but it was interesting and challenging because they wanted to showcase his talent, I guess, as well, and they were
Sure.
collaborating. So I was like, great, how do I make this look interesting? Because it's just a big ball of green. So I was like, there's only one way that I could do this, and that was to introduce a lot of color to it. So
Nice.
once I'd seen the installation, I had decided that we were going to grab all these like different colored LED lights. And I think I had one pro photo in the front, which is the one that's on her face, this highlighting the
Right.
face,
Hmm.
because that's the one that I wanted to cut all the color
Hmm.
and have
Did
just
you have that in the
natural
grid?
skin showing through. I think I had that on a grid, yes.
Hmm.
And I think I also had one behind her, if you can see that slight flare that's coming out of her.
The orange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So, so this happened like impromptu. Like you didn't visualize this from the very beginning. You kind of went there, you saw the setup, and then you started
yeah, I saw that.
improvising.
Yeah, I saw the setup. No, I saw a picture of the setup.
Okay.
So I knew that it was going to be this, and I was like, how to make it more interesting. And there was another inspiration, which was the sort of very Japanese neon nightlife. Um, so I was like, I've never tried something like that before. I would really like to recreate something like that. But I have this big floral installation in the background that I need to work with as well. So I just use the kind of lighting that you would see if you go out on the streets of Japan and Tokyo. Well, not Japan, but for instance, like the heart of Tokyo. Everything is
Hmm.
neon. Everything is this beautiful light. Um, so I was very inspired by that. So I kind of knew that I wanted to recreate something like that.
Yeah.
So, but
I
yeah,
love.
setting it up on the day was all like on the spot, impromptu.
Yeah. I love this show. I love the fact that you have tones like there's color contrast happening between the highlights and the shadows as
Hmm.
well. So there's some
Hmm.
Yeah.
lights that are only showing up in the shadow, like your blues, and I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
makes the image. I feel like
Yeah.
the
These are
very
really
few
striking images.
yeah, the
Yeah.
very few
Thank you.
photographers
Right.
who use that well. I think Anushka may be one of them who uses it quite well.
Yeah. But these are.
Sorry,
I would
I
have
don't know what
never.
that dance was just now. The weird dance. Yeah.
I would have never guessed that all of it was green in the background. I mean, I thought I don't know. There were probably different colors when I first saw the image, but that's
No, no.
interesting
Well,
that
you
you
can. I mean, when you look
completely.
behind, you can see the green of the plant, and then yeah,
Yeah.
the others just come from the color of the tubes, and then
Beautiful. Very very nice.
a little bit of like increasing and decreasing of certain colors in post production, and it just makes everything pop.
Very
So
very
I mean,
nice.
when you light something like this, you start off with the background lights, or do you like the model first and then kind of build up on it? How does it work?
I start off with one light always. That's been always my way of building up things because sometimes you don't want to use all the lights. You'll find, the perfect balance as you're setting up. So I always
True.
start with one light and then I keep adding. But I did actually in this case, I think I did put a couple of the background lights first to light the setup just to see how much I needed there. And then I brought some in the front. And we also had this blurriness that you see
Yeah.
is cellophane.
Oh,
So I
nice.
had
Interesting.
I had colored cellophane also on the floor
Really
to
close the
hide the
camera.
floor, and then
Okay.
some of it was in the camera, some of it was, yeah, it was kind of like just how I felt I could use it in the shots.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, but stuff like this is something that I don't think that we're allowed to use in commercial photography because you never know how they're going to use it, and they always do stuff like this in post. But I mean, it's great to see like these hacks come into like a finished picture through like the process versus just like doing it in post. I mean, this can be done very easily in post as well, but actually
Yeah, absolutely. This is the
doing it
point.
there is
This is a
yeah.
chance. Sorry to cut you off. This is a chance where you actually get to do what you wanted to do, and
Yeah.
that's some of the privileges, I guess, you don't have all the time when you're shooting for a client, But you do get these one-off projects that you get to do what you want, and that's why they turn out so amazing because
Yeah.
they're yours, and it's like your complete idea from start to finish. And
Do a
I,
lot of
yeah,
your clients come to you because of your personal work, or they come to you because of the commercial work that you've created?
I have no idea.
You know, would you like do a lot of tests still, or do you try to do?
I think the last time I did a test was um, could have been September, October, maybe. In fact, I'll show you if you scroll up on my page. The last
Yeah.
shoot that I did, last test shoot that I did was a beauty shoot.
So I know about
Um,
that because you
this
were
one,
looking for a model last minute, and
yeah, this
you
was
were
the
looking
last.
for a model, right?
Yes, 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 yes. This is the one.
Yeah,
Uh, when does it say? March 3rd. Yeah, but I think I shot it much before.
2019.
No, I think I could have shot it in Jan, maybe. I actually
Nice.
don't. December, Jan, roughly. Yeah, and it finally got like worked on and stuff like that. And by the time I released it was March. Yeah.
really, really
Um,
nice. Very nice. I've always wondered, is it how do you manage to get? So I've never shot um, beauty hair
Neither
commercially.
have
So
I.
is it, yeah, seriously,
This
you
is
wouldn't be able
exactly
to
why I shot it. This is exactly why I
tell.
shot it because I have been asked many times to share my hair work, and I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I don't have hair work. So I'm gonna go and shoot it now because I want to shoot more hair work. I want to shoot more
Yeah,
beauty. So I
yeah.
get asked to do beauty work, but I don't get asked to do the hair jobs. And I'm like,
Hmm.
but I was like, I can do both, it's not
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
big deal.
yeah.
But unless you have it in your book, clients don't believe in your potential. It's like what they
True.
see is what they'll get.
Very true.
Or what they see is what they think they'll get, So if they don't see it,
True.
they feel like you won't be able to give it to them, basically.
Very true.
I had to then shoot some hair work.
No, these are really, really stunning. Very, very nice images.
Thank you. I owe that all to Mariana, who's great with hair and makeup.
Yeah, she's
Yes.
fantastic.
Very, very little retouching on these. It was more like
Yeah,
just
really.
it was more like color correction just to make sure that
Yeah, yeah.
because the girl had different colored hair,
No, but you
so it
all
was
were able
more
to
like
get this kind of gloss and I don't know
yeah.
uniformity
And also
straight out of
yeah, I
camera.
also used it. Yeah, and I
That's
also used
incredible. Wow.
a new light. What was I testing with?
Breeze.
Uh, Breeze. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Then you can tell by the
And
tones.
yeah, and actually the Breeze on the hair was amazing. And then when we had done some
Really?
beauty shots later, I didn't like the effect that the light had on the skin. So I moved to
Okay.
using a beauty dish, I think, afterwards.
So the funny
But
thing about
the
the breeze
Breeze on the
is
hair was amazing.
the breeze on the face as well. So basically, you
Mm.
just there's a certain area of focus that you need to keep it within, where it starts to get.
Yeah,
I mean, your hotspot needs to cover up the entire face, and that's how you kind of
yeah,
get like the best looking light for your face. It that that's that's one of the only modifiers can be used for so many different things. Like if you push it out all the way and you flood it, it gives a completely different light. Versus if you put on a spot, it gives a completely different light, and it's got this sheen that comes in your the highlights and in the shadow area. That's really interesting. It's really
mm.
interesting. But yeah, do you have any like regrets in your photography career, Anushka?
Mm.
Yeah.
Um,
This should be our
I have made a few mistakes on shoots, which I probably wish I could have changed at that point. I mean, but it's all part of the learning process for me, at least. It's like,
anything in
um,
particular.
no, nothing as bad as some horror stories I've heard of other photographers. But no, I don't. None that I can think of that no regrets as such. For me, it's all lessons.
True.
Um, no regrets. But I'm sure I have messed up some shoots. I'm sure I've pissed off a few people. I'm sure I've blown up somebody's money. But
Haven't we all?
yeah.
But yeah. So I asked people for questions for Anushka on Instagram, and all I got was she's amazing. I love her, and a couple of
That's so
other ones
sweet.
like that. So do you want to answer those questions? She is beautiful. Love your
I don't
feet.
think the
Oh, that's not a question.
Yeah,
yeah, that's not a
that's all
question.
I got. So, I mean, you can pick which one. I also got one. Why is she so famous? Which I was like, okay,
Okay,
so she's
interesting.
good. I don't know.
um, Thanks for the amazing compliments to everybody that wrote in. And I wouldn't say I'm famous, but I'm definitely well known amongst the community.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. Thank you for the support, I guess.
No, but I think at least Anushka is one of the more peaceful people in the photography community in India. So if you have any questions, you should definitely go ask her on the page, and you should follow her as well. She puts out some pretty amazing work.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a really big fan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's like a total fanboy moment for me as well. I still remember the first time we connected on Instagram, and then she hit me up. She saw one of my images. She's like, "Oh my god, I really like this," and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I've never had a peer that I mean a photographer I've looked up to like message me and say, "Hey, you know what? I like your work." I know they've seen the image, but they never comment on it. I was like, okay, this was a new experience for me. I was like, yeah,
I always believe in supporting other artists and encouraging them. And it's so nice to hear good feedback. I would never
Yeah.
message you and be like, hey, it's a shitty image.
Or
I
you
have
could have
But
received
changed
those in
this
my
lighting, or you could
inbox.
have tried that. Yeah.
huh?
I have people that straight out message me and say, I can do this better.
What?
Ooh.
Yeah, I've gone to their
That's
profiles and in my head I'm thinking, no, you can't. But I don't say anything back. I was like, okay, screw it.
No, I always think it's nice to compliment other people. And I mean, especially if you appreciate it, why not? Like, why not? I have no ego issues or trips. And I mean, maybe that's also why a lot of people like will talk to me related to all kinds of things, but especially photography. I have a lot of people approaching me every day, chatting to me about stuff. I try and help them as much as I can, give as much as advice as I can. And yeah, I'm always open to that. I'm not at all like frigid in that sense, or hoarding my magical talents so that I
your
can take
secret
them.
secret
Yeah,
softbox.
my secret softbox. Yeah, you'll
And
find it.
you know what that modifier was? It was the para. It is a brown color para. That was the modifier that they held back. I mean, again, I don't want to say the name out because it's just going to be embarrassing. But that
I always
was
I always posted that if nobody ever noticed. Every time I was on a shoot, I would not do a story of what was happening on the shoot. I'd do a story of the para. I was like, this para is so beautiful that it needs to be put on my story because I'm like,
but
it's
you
such a
know,
stunning light.
no, but I really feel the para is a beautiful looking light. I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at it, but I've never used the brown color para on a job as a main light. I've used the brise for a campaign,
Oh, really?
but never the para. I've had the para. We've rented it. It was set up. It was lying next
Mm,
to me,
mm,
but I've never used it. Like I think for me, my one of my favorite modifiers is the Ellen Chrome Indirect, which I don't know if you've seen the light motive ones, and you can put like a, a Braun in it or a Pro Photo in it, so it bounces in and then comes back out. I feel that gives
Okay.
some really interesting light. And the other one is the Fresnel heads from Pro Photo and Braun. That gives some nice, some yummy light. Like it's just you can kind of
Mm.
I love hard light. I think that's kind of
Yeah,
my
yeah, it's a
yeah.
good, it's a good one. But see, everybody, it's it's not okay. Well, maybe you can possibly learn how to use each and every um diffuser or softbox or this or that and use it to your advantage. Sometimes you don't. Like I have points where I've hired lights and I just cannot figure them out.
Yeah.
It's just not working. I'm doing exactly what I was either told to do, or I've seen a YouTube video, or I've tested it out myself multiple times and it just doesn't work. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. This is not for me.
Yeah.
You know
So the
a lot
Para
of
was not like
modifiers.
that. The Bronx.
Yeah, there are a lot of modifiers. I think you need to kind of use it for a while before you understand what the true potential of the light is coming out of it. Like a beauty dish, for instance, you need to have it at a particular distance from the model to get the proper effect of the beauty dish versus just placing it anywhere. Like if you place it 30 feet away and try to get the same light, you're not going to. It needs to be a couple of feet away,
Yeah.
right? And I
Mm.
feel the more you kind of use those modifiers, you kind of get better, and that kind of becomes your style. But having said that, I think after all these years of using all these things, now my favorite is kind of like a reflector board and a light bouncing into it, or that same light directly going onto the model. Because I feel like those two extremes give you the best kind of light versus any of the expensive modifiers right now. Like, and
Mm.
the Para is a very expensive modifier. I think like it's like 5 or 6 lakhs for just the parabolic umbrella, which is so out of I think the reach of most people to even try it out.
Yeah, I mean, I rent. I don't own anything but my camera.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's what I've done over the past, I think, 4 years now. I used to own a lot of lighting. I used to own a lot of stuff like tripods and everything at home. But now I've got to the situation where I use one lens about 95% of the time on my camera. That's the 50 mm 3.5, and one camera. That's it. But I have backup tether tools, cables. I have a backup of everything except for my camera.
mm,
I mean, I
yeah,
have the GFX 100 as a backup.
it's not a bad option.
It is. But yeah, the 50S is just oof. But you should really update it if you can at some point. The
Yeah, thanks
focus
for reminding me. I'm just gonna write that down on my notes.
and yeah, Anushka also mentioned that. Oh, Anushka mentioned that she's got a launch today, so she has to get off a little early.
Yeah.
Sorry for keeping you on for so long.
No problem. That was actually went by really fast.
Yeah, I thought it's going to be a half an hour session, but we're at an hour and 15 minutes now.
Yeah, I've got some 30 messages regarding my post that I was supposed to do. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
gonna get on it.
let you
All
do
right.
it.
Cool.
All right, take care.
Thank you so
See
much,
you guys.
Anushka. Thank you so much. We've got a few
Thank you,
comments, but
guys.
Tushar Khandelwal asked if there's a possibility of working with Anushka as a retoucher. Tushar, please DM Anushka and send us some of her work, and we all can probably take that from there. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, guys. And yeah, if you have any comments, please leave them down in the video below.
Yeah,
Have a good
Great.
one. Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Take care,
Bye
guys.
bye.
take care.
Have a nice
See you
evening.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.